Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live video. It is Tuesday, the 29th of July, 2025. I'm CareyHolzman, and if you're new here, well, I'm not like most other content creators. I'm going to give you all the information, be it good or bad, about products that we review. I'm seeing more and more omissions from other content creators that won't talk about things. And then other content creators copy them, and as a result, the entire audience has no idea what the full details are. So, for example, if they find a shortcoming in a product that there's a workaround for, they never tell you the workaround. So I don't know what's going on with the community on YouTube, but we're going to be focusing the next few weeks on pointing this out and calling them to the carpet and making sure you're aware that these content creators are knowingly and willfully omitting and preventing all of the information from getting to you. We don't know if it's because they're paid or because they're afraid, but we're never, ever playing that game here. We would never sell our integrity or allow our own imagination to get in the way of our integrity here. So expect much more exposure of other content creators that have been made aware, they've been told, and they still choose to omit information. It's forgivable if they didn't know, but once they're told and they continue to omit information, it's time for somebody to step up and point out to the rest of the YouTube audience what they're not being told. Now, why they do that, I don't know, but it's just very frustrating and very disappointing because many of these content creators I'm going to point out are people I respect or I used to. I'm not going to point out content creators I don't have a high regard for because, you know, obviously I don't care. But for the people that I will point out, it's because I expect better from them, and it shocks me that they're exhibiting this behavior. And you wouldn't know unless somebody pointed it out, right? Because they're simply not making it very clear. And if they were making it clear, there'd be no point to discuss it. They'd be doing what I would expect them to do. So watch for that in the coming weeks ahead as we start to isolate and point out and call to the carpet. The reviewers who review need to be reviewed. Right? And speaking of that, we're going to share with you, for example, today's computer review that we're doing is from a company called Nemo. They're a US based company here. These laptops are assembled here in the US. They have a US repair depot. Everything about them is very unusual in the sense that they have the low prices of like AliExpress, but the support of the big name brands. And they're based here in the USA. So if this is so possible, how come nobody else is doing it? We've already reviewed two of their other models of laptops. One is a low-end gaming laptop with a 17-inch screen. One is a budget baseline, entry-level laptop with a 15-inch screen. They're very aggressively priced, well warranted, 90-day return policy if you buy directly from them. And, to give you an example, people will talk about the framework laptop being the upgradable laptop, that you can work on it yourself. Have you seen the prices on the framework laptop? So what if you could build your own laptop, maybe not to the exact modular level of a framework, but you're still building it yourself and for a fraction of the price? Where's all those content creators mentioning this? That's just an example of where we're going to be heading, because Nemo makes a bare bones version of a laptop. Bare bones means it doesn't come with any RAM, storage, or operating system. Since so many of you immediately want to take apart something brand new, and I hope you don't do this with a car. I cannot get over the number of people on the internet that the first thing they do when they get something brand new is take it apart and want to upgrade it, which I find insane. However, it's their money and it's their time, and maybe that's what they do for a hobby. You should order things the way you want them. So if a system you're ordering doesn't come with enough RAM or storage, and you're not building this thing from scratch, then you've ordered the wrong machine, because you're going to spend more money and spend more time to take out what's already in there and replace it at added expense. So if that's your intention, that what you're buying isn't good enough and you're not going to build it yourself, then the middle ground is something called bare bones. And so bare bones is a machine that is like the screen and the battery in this case, you can't change those out even if you wanted to. But if you feel like the RAM's not good enough for you, the storage isn't good enough for you, and you don't want the operating system they include, you want to put your own operating system on, then you don't need to pay for all that other stuff just to rip it right out and replace it. That's ridiculous. I don't know why other laptop manufacturers don't offer a bare bones. I've never seen it before. But this, for that personality, if what I'm describing, you see, if you're hearing me describe you, this is much more in tune. It's going to save you a lot of money, and it's designed for you to do exactly that versus taking something apart that isn't really, it's not necessary. When a company sends you a working piece of equipment, for you to immediately disassemble it and make it better before you've even turned it on, you're not doing anything illegal, but it doesn't make any reasonable sense to me. If I spend hours and hours and hours configuring computers so I can send it to the customer, and the customer then undoes all of my work, there's nothing more frustrating. Nothing more frustrating than me spending all that time and care to make sure my customer has a good experience, only to have the customer undo my work and then call me and ask me to do it again. I mean, you have no idea how maddening that is. So if you're that kind of person that wants to do it yourself, this is exactly for you, because now you can go get your RAM, you can go get your storage, you can put Linux or Windows or whatever you want on there, and now you're not overpaying for equipment you don't want, and you don't have to take something apart because it's already taken apart for you. So in this example, Nemo has sent us the laptop, and on this side of the box, you'll see that there's a bag of screws right here. Why is that there? Because you have to put it together. It's going to save you some money, and if you enjoy that sort of thing, at least you're not taking apart something that's ready to be, it's already been tested, quality controlled, and now you're dismantling it. I've had customers dismantle my computers, and then they make it so they don't work anymore. Then they call me and say, you know, hey, the computer you sold me doesn't work. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I've run it through all these tests before I shipped it to guarantee that that would work. And I'll ask them, did you turn it on before you took it apart? No. So when you took it apart, you didn't know if I sent it to you working or not. All you know is the first thing you did when you got it is it wasn't good enough. You didn't even so much as turn it on. It's like salting your food before you've so much as tasted it. So, and people will laugh and joke about it, but I don't find anything about that funny. If a chef has spent a lot of time and effort in making sure the meal is prepared properly, and you can't be bothered to taste it before you dump salt on it, it's incredibly offensive. So that's the part of being in business, right? The customers aren't doing anything necessarily wrong, but it's very disrespectful, and it usually comes back to harm the business. So they'll leave a negative review. The food was too salty. You salted it. The computer didn't work. You broke the computer. It was working until you opened it. So if you understand, if you're on the other side of the fence dealing with the ramifications, why do you think Tesla doesn't let people work on their own cars? Because if they screw it up and that car then, you know, causes an accident, the headlines are rogue Tesla causes accident. Tesla stock price goes down. This whole thing because users create problems and news grabs headlines and they send the wrong message and people leave negative reviews that are not honest. They don't say, I don't know if the computer worked or not before I took it apart. They just go, it never worked. And you have to do some investigation and digging to find out it might have worked. They just never bothered to check and see before they disassembled it to make it better. They added the salt to the food before they tasted it. That's just bad judgment. So you're going to deal with customers that exercise bad judgment all the time. And unfortunately, I'm also seeing content creators who I respect that are, in my opinion, also exercising bad judgment by not giving their audience all the information they know and trusting their audience to decide for themselves instead of saying, I don't want to tell you because I'm afraid you might make the wrong decision. So then get out of business. Like if I'm a chef and I'm afraid you might oversalt my food and I'm getting really angry about it, it's time to stop being a chef. Go find something else to do. If I'm making computers and people are breaking my computers and blaming me for it, and I've had enough, then I simply won't sell computers to that particular individual again. Or we'll do so under a waiver. You know, we'll make sure the customer sees everything's working first and signs off before the computer is transacted to them. There are ways to protect yourself against people's bad judgment. And all I'm trying to do in my videos is I'm trying to be very clear, transparent, authentic, and genuine with what your experience should be, what experience you should be expecting when I do reviews and there's something good or something bad. If there's a workaround, I'm going to tell you everything I know in that regard, because that's how you're going to make the best decision. I'm not making decisions for you here. I'll tell you what's a good idea and what to expect from good ideas, and what's a bad idea and what to expect as a bad idea. Then you're not shocked and outraged because you had unrealistic expectations. Now, for full disclosure, Nemo sent us the laptop for free so we can do this, but under no terms, conditions, or payments. They also sent us, which I didn't even know they were going to do, they sent us a memory module, and they sent us an NVMe drive, and we will put our own, we'll provide our own version of Windows on here. So if this seems like an ideal situation that you can buy a bare bones laptop and put your own RAM, storage, and operating system in it, I'm not aware of any other brand that allows you to do that except maybe Framework, and they're really, really expensive by comparison. Now, today's laptop is a 17.3-inch laptop. I'm going to take you over to Nemo's website because I want you to see how they're promoting this and the different variations that it comes in. So let me just jump over here and go to window capture. Here we go. This is Amazon's webpage. This is the laptop. This is the, I think this is the same one. And on Amazon, you'll see it's already got RAM and storage. It's ready to roll, as you would expect. But if we go directly to Nemo, instead of a 30-day return period with Amazon, you have a 90-day return period with Nemo. And this is not the right page either. This says it's a 15.6-inch laptop. That ain't right. I think Mara has given us the wrong link. So let me look for this in a second here. What you need to know is Nemo makes more than one laptop, and they offer them, I think they offer every one of them as bare bones, except maybe the budget one, I'm not sure. They might offer them all as bare bones. But if I take a look here, let me grab my glasses and let me see which model they sent us. These are all obviously unscripted, unedited, and live videos. So this is.
Down.
I have to.
The first one is the one that they have on Super Special.
Oh.
And then underneath that, you'll find all the other.
I thought it had its own product page.
It actually does. So your referral link is in.
No, I don't see it when I scroll down. It's not there. This is all just details of the wrong model. When I say the wrong model, it's just the model we don't have here. So let me do a quick search, and the model for this one is, it's a Ryzen 9 8945HS. That's the CPU. I don't see a model number on here. It's got to be on here somewhere. It's a 17.3-inch laptop. That's why I know we're on the wrong one here. Let's see, products. How about if we do it this way? So they have an N100, that's their entry level. The Nemo N Pro, oh, it might be one of these. What did I say the CPU was? It's a Ryzen 9 8945HS. Oh, it's this brand new one right here. That's what we wanted right there. Okay, that's what we've got today. So $659.99, and you'll see here the 0 gig model. That's your bare bones model. That means you provide your own RAM, you provide your own NVMe drive, and you provide your own operating system. So what does this model contain and how is it available? It's available in both blue and in black, your choice. And if we scroll down, there's a bit of information about the CPU, the display, USB 4 on this, and yes?
The link is in the chat. It's also in your notes. I don't know why you're not.
Well,
the right one.
I'm on it now, so the one I clicked on in the notes took me to a different model. Either way, we'll make sure if it's been corrected prior to when I loaded the page, then a refresh would update that. But the Nemo 17.3-inch N175 is what we're working on. And it says here it's expected as of, well, it says delivery July 29th to 4th. Today's the 29th. Oh, no, that's getting a free 65-watt charger. I see. That laptop will come with its own power bank, so this must be a separate charger. Interesting. And again, Nemo has a 90-day return if you buy from them, 90-day return policy. And let's see, we got weight at 4.6 pounds. It's going to be a 1920 by 1080 screen. Although the storage says up to 2 terabytes, on the box the storage says up to 4. Isn't that interesting? Right here it says up to 2 terabytes. And if I come over here to camera 1, and we see these kind of packaging errors constantly from every PC manufacturer, and we just like to point them out because it can create some confusion on behalf of the customers that don't know which is true. There's no such thing, where's my, right there. There's no such thing as a size limitation on storage. It does not exist. It existed many, many years ago, but hasn't existed for well over a decade. Meaning that any size NVMe drive, whether now or 10 years from now, will work in any NVMe slot to the limitations of what that slot can take with regards to, Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5, and also the thickness of the NVMe drive. So if the drive is a double-sided drive because it's just, chock full of chips to get a large capacity, then it may not fit down into the slot if the slot doesn't give enough space underneath, or if the lid just sits right on top of it, or if the device runs really hot and there's no room for you to put a heatsink on it. But these are all different issues that have really nothing to do with capacity, just whether or not the drive fits. Because the capacities keep getting bigger and bigger, manufacturers are often defaulting to the maximum capacity available at the time that they wrote the directions or they wrote the specs, and they never update this or change this. So as new RAM comes out, for example, you can buy DDR5 SODIMM RAM now that are 64 gigs each. That did not exist a few months ago. So instead of the maximum being 2 times 48, which used to be 96, the new maximum is now 2 times 64, because you couldn't buy a 64 gig RAM module before they were invented. But the documentation was written before they were invented. So the documentation doesn't get updated. So those limitations may no longer apply in the future, just so you're aware. This is true of all modern computers. Now, there may be some exceptions to this, depending on what specifically we're, what we're identifying in a unique scenario. But overall, please know, any sort of limitations acknowledged in the documentation regarding RAM or storage or even operating system compatibility are subject to change, since nobody has a crystal ball, but are likely fully compatible in most cases, and those limitations are simply outdated information. Now, let's see what our friends over at Nemo sent us to put in this, because again, there's no prep on this. This is just like my regular daily job where I go out to customers, businesses primarily, and work with whatever hardware they have. It may not be something I built. It could be something they bought at Best Buy or Costco, something they built themselves, or maybe their previous IT person built it. For whatever reason, now they're calling me for help, and I have to fix whatever they have. There's no prep work for that. It's just experience. So I just do this the same way, right? This is no different than a customer call. So what we've got is a stick of ADATA DDR5 4800 speed. I don't think this thing's going to see anything any faster than 4800. So if you want to waste your money on higher speed RAM, it'll still work. It'll just cost you more. You can certainly add more capacity, but the speed on that, I believe, is limited at 4800. They've given us a 1 terabyte Kingston NV3. That's the model, NV3, 1 terabyte. This will be a Gen 4 drive. And yeah, pretty straightforward. In fact, this is normally the equipment that would be included if you bought it already installed, right? Depending on the configuration you want. One thing you're going to notice differently about a bare bones laptop is, first of all, it's not assembled, right? And why would it be? Just so you can take it apart? That doesn't make any sense. So what I mean it's not assembled, it's put together, but it's not screwed down. That's why these screws are here. If they put the screws in, you're only going to have to take them out. You can't use the laptop the way they sent it. Without those two components and without an operating system, what you've got is a doorstop. So this all makes perfect sense, and it's new to me because I've just never seen a laptop manufacturer offer this before, other than Framework, which is, again, way too much money for me anyway. Now, I realize the Framework laptop is a lot more modular, but this is about as close as you can get for a fraction of the cost. And it may be all you need, because I don't know how many people actually do upgrade their Framework. I think they like the idea that they can, but very few people actually do that. So inside the box, it's packed like so. And we'll take out these foam pads. Here we go. And in the bottom of the box, underneath everything, we have some documentation. And
You have email?
I have email. Thank you.
Nemo also told another person that bought a bare bones laptop, their support told them that they would a license for.
Oh, they will?
Yes.
They're including a license for Windows? Is that a special, or is that just all the time?
That's what support said.
Nemo said if you buy bare bones and you install Windows Pro or Home.
Whatever, they didn't say.
Well, we'd have to know, because the license only works for.
Right, and I'll figure that out. But I just got this message from somebody
Okay.
who bought bare bones. And got that.
Well, we're going to find out.
And also, as an FYI, so the top link was for the other laptop that's on sale right now for their back to school special. I moved that to the bottom of the notes, but in the middle of the notes is all the details about this laptop, including your referral links for this particular.
Yeah, okay, so just in case you can't hear what Mara's saying, is the video notes contain all the links. The reason the other laptop came up is that's on sale right now. She's moved that further down so that this link is first. And then all the links to Nemo, as well as all the products that we're showing today.
And on Amazon as well. You can buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, you can buy it. Well, you can buy, I don't see a bare bones of this on Amazon.
Not a bare bones.
So if you don't want the bare bones version, you can get it at Amazon.
Correct.
Amazon has 30-day returns. If you buy directly from Nemo, they have 90-day returns. Okay, so in this box, this is our power adapter and power cable. And I'm just going to set this right over there. Let's just get some room cleared out here. I'm going to have to get the screws off of that box. I forgot to remove them. But let me show you how this arrives. Here we go. All right. So it looks like we got blue. And when I look down here, there are just 4 screws installed on this bare bones laptop. So this way it doesn't, I guess, fall apart on you while it's being shipped. Let me step around here and we'll take a quick look here at the bottom. You'll see one screw in each corner, right? All the other holes are empty, so that way you can get in there right away and not have to put so much effort in and potentially strip out any screws. So in each corner, we have just a standard Phillips screw, and all the other holes are blank. So that means getting into this will be super easy. All right, let's do that now. Just set that over here. Where is which driver do I want to use? I'll just use these little set of jeweler's drivers here. That's what they used to call them. See if that's the right size. So what I like to do when I take the screws out of a laptop is I like to set them down in the order they were removed. So with the front of the laptop facing me, what I do, you see this screw right here is much taller than this one. And so in order for me to remember, I kind of emulate where they came out. They don't necessarily have to be to scale. I don't have to separate them by 16 inches, but I definitely want to put them back in the same position, just so I don't mistake putting a small screw in where a long screw goes, only to find out the long screw won't go in all the way where the short screw is supposed to go. And it just makes my assembly process a little more frustrating when I put it back together. So as long as, you know, sort of represent the four corners of the laptop right there, I know those go to the back and the short ones go to the front. Normally, with every laptop I've ever worked on, they always have all the screws in. So this is weird to do this with just 4 screws. Let's see, we should be able to just pull up on this without requiring any special spudger tool and all the delicate nature of not worrying about breaking any clips. There are some clips on here, but you can see the ease with which that came off. Now, looking in the inside of the laptop here, I've heard from some viewers that their battery was not plugged in, but this battery is plugged in, as you can see right here. And I should be able to jump over to camera 2, give you a close-up of this. In here you can see GPU and CPU cooling. We have 2 RAM sockets for DDR5 side by side. This is our Wi-Fi adapter right here. Of course, our battery is plugged in right there. And our NVMe drive, where is that going to go? Let's see. I see an NVMe slot right here that's going to go over the Wi-Fi card and secure here. And I see an NVMe slot right here that will secure here. So I don't know the difference between the 2 NVMe slots or if one is preferred over the other. But I don't really think it matters. I think they're both going to be Gen 4 slots. I'm sure in the documentation it will tell us. However, instinctively I want to go to this position just because it's closer to me. That covers up the Wi-Fi here. And then I would consider this one the secondary. Now, knowing me, I'm probably assuming everything backwards. But if they're both Gen 4, then it's really a coin toss. There's not a right answer versus a wrong answer. And you can see how shallow the slots are. And with the lid coming down so close, you can't really put a heatsink on those. As a result, you could be limited by capacity due to the fact that it could, you know, a different higher performance NVMe drive could overheat. Now, if you're curious about anything else, this is just an I/O board. This is going to have your USB ports and audio jack and stuff on this little board right here. This is your speakers right here and right here. Over here, this I/O board is part of the motherboard on this side. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's really simple. The main system itself, in case you're wondering, what is the actual computer here? You see where I'm drawing the screwdriver? That's the actual computer, just that little bit. But they have to make it this big to accommodate that size screen. Obviously, this could have been made this big. Everything from here over could have been removed. But then where would your screen go? You'd have to make a smaller screen. So this is not uncommon, especially in larger laptops where there's lots of empty space. This also lowers the weight, reduces heat, allows for better airflow. So don't think of that as a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. So to install our RAM and SSD is very, very simple. We do it no differently here than we do on a regular desktop. Now, for a system like this, it would be in your best interest to put in 2 RAM modules so that you have dual channel mode for higher performance. They've only sent us the one, so it's going to work fine. Just you'll get better performance from 2. To put our NVMe drive in, it goes in no differently than all the other times we've shown NVMe drives go in. And like I said, it looks like we can equally install it here or we can install it right over here, or we can put two NVMe drives in if we want to. Now for the RAM, it doesn't matter if we use this socket or that socket. Doesn't matter. Just pick one. The RAM only goes in one way. In this case, the label goes away from us. And sit that into the socket by putting it on an angle. See that? And it's going to have a little resistance, and you're just going to grab the edges and very gently, the retention levers on each side hold it down. That's what secures your RAM. Having another equal RAM module on the other side will enable dual channel mode for higher performance. Just verifying our battery is in fact plugged in. And we're done. That's all there is to it. Now, because everything is brand new, I mean, I'm assuming that NVMe drive is blank. I don't know, but we're about to find out. If you're providing your own NVMe drive, you'll also need to you'll have to install Windows on it. It needs to be formatted and installed. I'm just trying to get this to click in. I don't necessarily want to put the screws in it just yet. I want to verify everything works as it should. But that's all there is to it. It's really simple to do. And at this point now, we can just plug it in and let's just verify the state of the NVMe drive. It should be completely reset and blank. So we'll break out our power adapter. Like so. This is a standard USB Type-C power adapter that you could use to charge your phone, or you know, there's really nothing proprietary about it other than the wattage that it puts out, which in this case appears to be I'm telling you, man, they just keep making the print smaller and smaller. So I'll get my more serious magnifying glasses. Oh, now I can read it. 15, hold on a minute, power delivery, 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, 15 volts, or 20 volts. This is a 100 watt maximum USB-C charging adapter, 100 watts. So it's safe to use on your phone. If you have a fast charging phone at 65 watts, this won't even probably get warm at 65 watts, and it'll charge your phone very quickly. A lot of cell phone chargers, especially older ones, are 35 watts. And your phone, if it enables 65 watt fast charging, will charge much, much faster, at least right up till it gets to the 90 percentile range. And then it slows down the charge to prevent your battery from overheating and catching fire. But if you had a battery that was down around 10 or 20% and you charged it, and your phone supported fast charging or even super fast charging, it'll charge faster with this than, say, a lower wattage adapter. But it can also be used for the reason it was sent, which was for powering this laptop. I like that Nemo has included their logo on this, so you know what it belongs to. A lot of manufacturers, they include power adapters made by other companies, and if those power adapter in the device it's for ever gets separated in the future, it's really a coin toss if you plug it in and it doesn't work. Now, I'm talking about barrel style power connectors. With USB power connectors, the irony is that's not necessary, because if you don't have enough watts to turn the laptop on, it won't hurt anything. And if you have more watts than that, then the laptop will only pull from it what it needs. There's no issues of polarity or wrong voltages. Because of that, the logo being on this is not necessary. However, the logo being on something with a barrel connector is very rarely, if ever, found, except from big manufacturers like perhaps Asus or Dell or HP. But when buying mini PCs, especially those from the Asian companies, they often have the name of the power adapter manufacturer on the power adapter, which makes it very confusing should the power adapter be separated from the mini PC. And if you plug it into the wrong mini PC, you will likely burn it up, like smoke will come out. There could be a fire. So I just think that's really fascinating, where when you don't need it, they give it to you. And I'm referring to they as just manufacturers in general. Nemo's doing all the right things here as far as I'm concerned. So we're off to a good start. let me plug this in and let's turn this on for the first time and see what it does. Right back here, usually if you have multiple USB-C ports, sometimes they can be used as charging for the laptop, but usually the one in the furthest left corner with nearly every laptop manufacturer, actually with every laptop manufacturer, this is your charging one, the one all the way back to the left. And normally we get a light or something that indicates our state of charge, which we do have right there. Right there, we have a red light that shows we're charging. That's good. Let's turn this on together and see what happens. Open the lid. We got a little screen protector here. And I will hit the power button, which is right here is the power button. Right here. Push that down. Sometimes you have to hold it down until you see some lights or activity. And we're getting nothing. And the reason we might be getting nothing is it's possible that the battery in here is so flat that it needs to charge for a second before we can turn this on. Or I'm not pressing the right button. So let me just turn this around and make sure I'm hitting the right button. We're definitely getting power to the laptop. I see the orange light on that indicates charging. That'll likely go green or blue typically when the battery's charged. And if the battery is completely flat, you might have to plug it in for a few minutes in order for there to be enough of a charge for the laptop to kick on. That's not uncommon. Let me just try one more time here. I've noticed when I push the button, I think it's because I'm pushing it multiple times, there's a blue light that comes on right beside the red one. So I think I just may be impatient. Maybe it is trying to boot right now. I do see the blue light still remains on. And so I was impatient. Because we put the RAM in, it was training the RAM. I'm not used to a laptop having to train RAM. That was weird. So the indication of whether or not this is on is over here. I'm used to like a keyboard lighting up or a light being on the power button. I'm a little disappointed they moved that light all the way to the side. But now that we know where to look, we can verify that in fact it's on and just give it a minute to train the RAM. Now, it looks like Windows is already installed on the flash drive they sent us, or the NVMe drive they sent us, because I see the little toilet bowl flushing right there. And this is going to load into some version of Windows 11, Home or Pro, I'm not sure. Now, normally you would have to install your own Windows 11, right? Because you'd be providing your own NVMe drive. There's no sense having them provide it to you so you can plug it in. I guess you could ask them to do that if it'll make you feel good, but that's a really strange request. But with a company like Nemo, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, okay, I'm not telling you they will, but at this point, they're doing so much so differently and so custom and personalized. I've never seen a laptop manufacturer be this accommodating. Now, in the top, what'll be your left, there's a little fingerprint sensor here. So if you want to use Windows Hello, that's a, you know, when you set your passwords and you can never remember what your passwords are, your passwords could be your backup key.
To set up your device using a screen reader, turn on narrator by pressing Windows plus Control plus Enter. For more accessibility features, press Windows plus U, or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
Now we go through our typical Windows 11 setup, which is going to be very difficult for me to do when it's facing you and not me. So maybe I'll split the difference with you here. And I'm going to do English, United States. And then we're going to choose our region is United States. And then we're going to go to United States keyboard, skip any secondary keyboard layout. I am not going to get on Wi-Fi. And even here it says I don't have internet. So the bypass NRO is not needed on the NVMe drive they sent us. Accept the license agreement, of course. And I will put the username of user, USER, enter with a blank password. And as far as location settings, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything off. I'm sorry, privacy settings. I turn everything off but location, and that's going to fix any date or time discrepancy from the factory where this is made. So the parts are probably made overseas in Asia, but it's assembled here in the United States. So I don't know if they've adjusted for the date and time here in the US or not, and I don't care, because by turning on location, Windows is going to automatically, once it's connected to the internet, synchronize the date and time for us. So unless it's off by more than about 100 years, you don't need to correct it. So now it's just finalizing our Windows 11 setup. And I'm a little disappointed they sent us the drive with the OS on it, only because that's not the way you're going to get it. You're going to get it without a drive. And that means you're going to have to put your own operating system on it. All right, so in this way, this review isn't exactly accurate. Appreciate what Nemo was thinking when they sent it to us. And we didn't have to use the parts they sent, but I was curious. I'm also curious what version of Windows this is, if it's Windows 11 Home or Pro. So that's the other thing I want to know. Now, with regards to installing Windows 11, you're going to download and create your own media that I've shown in videos lots of times before. You're going to boot from your flash drive. You're going to go through your Windows 11 setup. And we'll get some clarity from Nemo if the license they're including is for Home or Pro. My guess is going to be the same as what's ever on here, but we need to verify in order to set proper expectations. So we'll give that just a minute to finish up. And of course, it'll need Windows updates, and I will put the AMD Adrenalin software on here as well, since this is an AMD-based system. The system's very quiet. It looks great. It's very unusual to see, again, a laptop manufacturer outside of Framework letting you put your own RAM and storage in right out of the gate, right? That they ship it without that is very, very, very unique, and I appreciate that. So many other companies are all just doing what their competitors are doing. And when you ask them why they're doing it, the answers I get is because that's what their competitors do. So to think outside the box, to be a leader instead of a follower, this is what I like about Nemo. They're really free thinking and leading, and hopefully others will follow them in suit, because I think this is a great option for the people of that mindset that want to be able to do this. I realize probably 98% of all laptop buyers have no interest in wanting to do this, but probably 60% of YouTube viewers of this kind of content do want to do this. That's the thing. But the average buyers far outnumber the average viewers. But regardless of that, it's nice that they accommodate both and not just go with the majority. You know, that's the thing that frustrates me, is when they say what you want doesn't matter because most people don't want that. It's not an acceptable answer. I don't care what most people want. And if you want my business, you'll accommodate what I want if what I want is reasonable. This is a reasonable thing any laptop manufacturer could offer. There's nothing magical putting RAM and storage and an operating system on it. It's just that they're going to say very few people would choose that. Okay, and you don't want the extra sales? Is that too many sales for you? Oh no, we're good. We don't need any more money. So I appreciate that Nemo's thinking outside of the box in that way. So now that we have Windows installed and the system is up and running, I think I can attach this to my HDMI and go right out to the capture card. So let me see what cables I'm stepping on here. Here we go. Ethernet cable. On these thin laptops, there's nowhere to plug an Ethernet cable in. So I will use one of my adapters. I could just connect it to, I can connect to my Wi-Fi, but I don't want to do that while I'm live on camera for obvious reasons. So we're just going to plug this in. These adapters, boy, the Amazon one was on sale for $5 for one of these just the other day. I love having these things. They come in so handy, and the driver for this is always built into Windows. So that way I can get online and download updates. But what I wanted was my HDMI cable before I saw that little squirrel. And let's plug that in right here. And in theory, we should have video now. There it is. Now I can turn the laptop to face me. That helps when I'm trying to show you things. Now I don't know why I see Word, Excel, and PowerPoint on here unless these are just trials. Let's go to Account. Yeah. Let's close. So those are trials. So here's the downside. I think if we go to Settings and look at the installed applications, you might have multiple copies. Yeah, so I have an issue with this. They've installed Office 365 how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's 8 times. Then you've got the default one that comes with Windows. And then you're going to have OneNote 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So that's disappointing because it does take up quite a bit of space. It's not a big deal to uninstall them, but it's one reason why you might want to do a wipe and reinstall. Especially, by the way, if you are doing your own bare bones laptop, you wouldn't be installing Windows with all this on it. So if there's one area that I think Nemo needs to work on, it's taking the Microsoft off of here. This is an old school methodology that was used in the days before Microsoft included the icon right to Office 365 in every install of Windows. At least here in the US, you get this. This replaces all of the others. So they don't need to do this anymore. So I don't know who's designing their installs, but they're a little behind the times. And this is taking up quite a bit of space. I don't know if we can see how much space each one of these takes. One of the reasons I don't like it is the French version will have French uninstall directions. And unless you speak French, you have to just know click the blue button. So when I tell it I want to uninstall this, just to give you an example, it's going to ask us in a foreign language to confirm. And if you don't read that foreign language, you might not know how to proceed. So instead we ritualize instead of educate. And we say when you see the blue button, that's the one you want, even if you can't discern the language on the blue button. It's not like one day you're going to suddenly learn French and need to have the French version. It seems highly unlikely. I guess it's possible. Did I not click it correctly? Let's see. Uninstall. Uninstall. Do you want to? Yes. Didn't I click that before? There we go. Let's do it something. Or maybe it isn't. There it is. So all this now, you'd have to speak French. And to remove each one of these different languages, you'd have to know what those languages all say. Or you realize it's always the blue button. So the best thing I could recommend is don't put that on there to begin with. That's just unnecessary garbage. And as far as I'm concerned, this would be a non-issue on a bare bones laptop. But if you're going to get the default install, and stuff like this bothers you, I mean, you can ignore it. It's not hurting anything, but it's also taking up space. We only have a 1 terabyte drive, so it's not like we have an abundance of space available. I want as much space of that 1 terabyte, minus whatever Windows needs and whatever my software needs. This is software I don't need that's taking up space I do need, and I didn't ask for it to be put on there. So we'll make sure that Nemo knows where we stand on this, and that this is no longer an accepted way of industry-wide to put Windows Office on a computer. That's what the Office 365 shortcut is for. That way it installs the version. If somebody wants the trial, that will install the trial for you automatically in the region you're in without burdening the system with all this bloatware. That's really an unfortunate choice from Nemo because they've done everything else so well, but they really need some improvement here, in my opinion. I feel this is disrespectful to the customers utilizing their space in such a way without their consent. I did not consent to this. So one of the things we can do if we want to wipe Windows and reinstall it, first thing I want to do is see what version of Windows do we have. So if I go to my system properties, we can identify that we have Windows 11 Home Edition. It's 24H2, which also they did the bypass NRO for us, which is fantastic. I appreciate that. So we were not required to create a Microsoft account or to hit Shift and F10. On the other hand, Windows 11 Home also likes to turn encryption on by default. So let's just see if drive encryption's been turned on. And it's not BitLocker, but it is kind of like BitLocker. Let's go to disk management and I'm just curious, since this has been a topic as of late, and we're just looking to see if there's any locks in any of this. And if you're still not sure, we can always just close this out and just type in the word encryption. And that'll take us to the data encryption up here is the suggestion. And that should identify if the encryption has been turned on or not. Secure boot, secured core, manage device encryption. So right here, it says it's on. Okay, this could be a problem for people. In my opinion, should not be on by default. When you try to run a tool like a Cronus or a drive utility, it's not going to work. It's going to tell you you need to turn off BitLocker. You're going to say, wait a minute, I don't have BitLocker. That's in Windows 11 Pro. I have Windows 11 Home. It identifies drive encryption as, it could identify it as BitLocker when it isn't. I disagree that this should be on. I personally would not set up Windows with this on. It's no big deal if you're aware to turn it off. But how would you even know that? So that's why we make these videos. It's full disclosure to make sure that you have a realistic expectation of what you're receiving. Now, once again, there should be no operating system on this drive. If we're ordering bare bones, we're providing our own drive and we're providing our own operating system. So that's going to take a few minutes to run because it's got to go through every file on the drive and decrypt it. So that is another disappointment that I don't agree with. And this only happens automatically on Windows 11 Home. And it's a feature I turn off using a program called Rufus when making my Windows 11 install media. So I'm spoiled. I never have to check. So if in fact Nemo did not send us that NVMe drive and we had to provide our own, or if the NVMe drive that Nemo sent us was blank, we would have to install Windows from scratch. So guess what? We're going to do that right now, because this is more realistic of what you're going to have to do if you decide to do this yourself. I see Mara is approaching.
Yeah, I forwarded you the response from Nemo support and which license it is, what the requirements are. Your email.
I've already just figured that out.
Great, but also answers the question.
All right, we'll get it straight from the horse's mouth. All right, thank you. What do they say? If you purchased a barebone Nemo notebook, we can still provide a Windows 11 license as long as 1, you bought the system from an authorized seller, like their official store or Amazon, etc. And you can provide your order number and serial number for verification. Once verified, we can issue a valid Windows 11 Pro license key for activation. Oh, well, that goes completely against what they sent us, which is Windows 11 Home. So if you buy it with the operating system already installed, you get Home. But if you build it yourself and put Pro on it, they'll give you a free Pro license. I'm confused. We might want some clarity on that, Mara. Thank you to Mark Gaines, who sends an Amazon gift card for $25. He says, I hope you enjoy this gift card. Here's a few dollars for the channel. Thank you to our friend Buster, who prior to the show sent his Amazon gift card saying, this is my thanks for tonight's show. Your friend Buster. Thank you, Buster, out there in Scotland, and Mark Gaines in Northern Ireland for supporting us along with all of our members. And of course, a thank you to Nemo for making today's video possible. Now, if I wanted to cheat, I could pull the drivers right off of this right now and save them to a flash drive. No third-party software is needed. It's just a DOS command or a command prompt command. I don't want to cheat. I want to do this the way it needs to be done. If you're going to buy the bare bones, you're not going to have the drivers. You're going to have to go and get them. And how are you going to do that? Let's find out right now. Let's wipe this laptop completely clean and start with a clean flash drive. Now, they've already activated Windows 11 Home on this. They're telling me if I put Pro on this, according to the email, that they're going to send me a Pro license. I have no reason to have a Pro license. Like, Windows doesn't work any differently. It's psychological unless you're in an office, such as one that would have an IT department that you would log into a domain server. Windows Home is for homes. Windows Pro is for professionals. Just because you're a home user using Pro doesn't mean that that was a smart decision or that you somehow are professional now. It doesn't make any sense. On the other hand, if you like BitLocker, that's a weird thing to like. That is normally something that is forced on by company policy and governmental regulation in certain industries to protect customer data. So if you don't have any customers, if it's just you sitting at home alone playing with your computer, there's really no reason for you to use Pro outside of the fact that you're an enthusiast. Nothing wrong with that. Be an enthusiast. But you don't represent who Pro is made for. Pro is made to be used in an office for business reasons. Home exists for home users. That's why there's two different versions. If you use a home version in an office, there's probably some things you're not going to be able to do. And if you use a Pro version at home, more than likely you won't even realize it. But if you start diving into some of the Pro features, you're likely going to create a problem that nobody else you know is going to have, because they're likely, unless you're friends with enthusiasts who like to tinker and play, enjoy figuring out your problems. I will usually install the Pro version of Windows for all of my customers, whether they need it or not, because the cost difference on the license is like $2. And it's much more time consuming and troublesome should the customer's needs change and they need to go from home to Pro. But the old days, and this is just old information that people are holding on to, that the home version is holding out on you, that you're not getting all the features and performance of the Pro version. Those days were from Windows of the past. Microsoft let all that go. If you have more than 128 gigs of RAM, the only way you're going to see that is by installing Windows 11 Pro. If you need BitLocker because the government or a company you work for requires it, or you're just in a mood that you want to eventually lock yourself out of your own computer, that nobody can ever help you, it's not possible, your data's gone forever, get Pro. If you like to use sandboxing for testing software, get Pro. By the way, you can do all this stuff in Home. Home has encryption. You can download free VMware software. You don't need to use Windows 11 Pro to justify those features that you can add separately. But I just want to make sure that those who are not enthusiasts understand the extremes enthusiasts go to that are not representative of regular computer users, but they do make up the majority of YouTube watchers on this type of content. So when you look at comments, you're going to see a lot of very one-sided thinking that does not represent a majority, because the majority don't watch YouTube videos, especially of technical content. Those people who are watching these videos are generally enthusiasts, and even though my channel was never intended for enthusiasts, they've sort of taken it over whether I like it or not. So for everybody out there that just wants to know, is this a good computer, and keep all the technical stuff, I'm not interested, I'm trying. I am trying. Sometimes the audience makes it very difficult because they will ask enthusiast questions. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it may give you, the non-enthusiast, the idea that that's normal or that you're missing out on something that you should be doing. You don't need to be doing that if it doesn't interest you. And just because the majority of people leaving comments on YouTube videos are enthusiasts doesn't mean that that's something that you should be living up to. They're just more into it than you are. That's why there's so many more of them on YouTube. But in real life, if you go to Best Buy and you buy a computer, there's likely not an enthusiast buying a computer at Best Buy. So where you are, it depends on the surroundings, and that may lead you to believe what's normal. It doesn't mean it's normal. It's, when you're in different cultures and there's different cultural behaviors, YouTube tends to have a culture of enthusiasts, especially with tech content. And again, it's not to put enthusiasts down in any way. What I'm trying to clarify is the enthusiasts represent a very, very tiny percentage of computer owners, and the questions they ask and the things that they're interested in are not representative of everyday users, and nothing you need to worry about unless you want to become an enthusiast, in which case it does apply. All right, so again, I just want to set the expectations for the viewers who don't understand the difference, and it very much makes a difference, absolutely, with the information that you need to worry about versus information that they need to worry about. Two different separate things. Just because it matters to them doesn't mean it matters to you or even the majority of computer owners, unless you want it to. It's your choice, but you do have a choice. That's all I'm trying to point out. All right, so what I want to do is just wipe this laptop out, reset it entirely. So I'm going to grab just my regular Windows 11 media installation tool, the same one I've been using all year, and we're going to plug it in to any available USB port here. And what we want to do is we want to boot to this. I am not going to back up any drivers, all right, because we should not have the drivers. So if I were to back up my drivers and show you how to do this, and then you ordered one of these and put your own NVMe in, you're going to say, wait a minute, I don't have any drivers, he cheated. So it wouldn't be an honest review. It wouldn't be realistic. In order for me to make this realistic, I have to wipe the drive out, and we start fresh and clean. And then I'm going to show you how you get your drivers. I've done no research on this. I've got no script. I've got no rehearsals. Where am I going to get the drivers? Well, the first place I'm going to look is Nemo's website. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's reset this computer. We're going to completely wipe it. Now, when I tell you to completely wipe it, I don't mean to go into the Windows settings and do it there. No. No, 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 no. I want it wiped. I want the entire series of partitions on this NVMe drive gone. I want all the format removed, and I want the drive returned to the way it was when it arrived brand new out of the box. No formats, no partitions. And we're going to do that right now. So if I switch over to the desktop over, the laptop over here, let's go to this button. Yeah, that's what I want. All right, we're going to go to full screen. And here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go to, since we're in Windows right now, I'm going to go to Settings. So Advanced Options is what I want under Windows Update. Then under Recovery, I'm going to choose Advanced Startup right here. There's other ways to do this, but this way guarantees I'm going to boot from that flash drive. So we're going to let that restart, and it's going to provide us with an Advanced Startup menu where we can choose to boot from the flash drive. Mara says we've got email. All right, well, while we're waiting, thank you, Mara. Let's check our email. Well, we've got a PayPal contribution of $10 from our friend Mark Baggett. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for supporting the channel. He says, thanks for the educational content and keep up the great work. Well, thank you for supporting us so that we can. We appreciate you very much. Let me jump back over here to camera one. Why is that not working? Camera one? Camera one. I had the wrong screen on. So what it's doing right now, as you can see, is it's installing those updates that it, because I plugged it into the internet, this is something you really don't want to do until Windows is fully installed. So in retrospect, I never should have plugged this in because it started downloading updates in the background and now it's applying them. And I don't want to interrupt that. It's just faster to let it finish because we're going to blow it out of the water anyway. Now, if you wanted to, you could hold the power button down for about 10 seconds. That should shut the laptop off. Then turn it back on and hit the override key for the boot options, which I don't know what it is. It can vary from model to model and manufacturer to manufacturer. But this way I'm showing you applies to everybody equally. So I'm always trying to apply or demonstrate what I know will work for everyone versus these instructions apply to these people and this alternative applies to those people. And then the regular people go, well, that's too much information, and their eyes glaze over and they're like, I thought you said you'd make this simple. How do I know which one of those people I am? Just show the one universal way. And it's the same for everybody. It makes things simple and less confusing and less intimidating for people who may one day decide to become enthusiasts. We all start somewhere. None of us are born with this knowledge. Remember that. There was a time when we all wore diapers. Some of us still might. All right, let me take a look in the chat room and see what's going on in here. I haven't said hello to anybody today. I'm so rude. I'm all fired up today, so I really wanted to get started. I was anxious to do today's video. There's John Williams saying hello, and of course Mark Gaines, Phil Stodd, our friend Buster, Dazzle555. I also see Thomas MacT, Dustin Fuller, 3D Everything, Andy W6AD. I also see Alan with a Y, Luke Greenia. Ryan says hello. I also see Bob R. Welcome into Bob R. Nicholas Barlow. Chris Garrett says hello. Bruins44 joining us. John Downey says hello. Can you charge through the USB-C? Yeah, I think he probably asked that before we demonstrated it. Bob Shorkey joining us. Matt says hello. Luke Walker saying hello. There's Barry Klein and Ben Laird joining us. Nick Poverman joining us says hello. I have to keep looking over to I can't see it from the way. All right, let's see. Bob. Oh, I already mentioned Bob. Frankie B says hello. Carey, thanks for all the video yesterday. It was easy to follow. Right on, Frankie. Thank you for the update. Good to see you, my friend. Our members-only video was based on resolving a question that Frankie B had. So I'm glad he found that helpful. And we found it helpful as a content creation idea. Nick J joins us and says hello. Gary Tatum saying hello. There's Doman 2000. And Paul Connolly, Paul joining us from Australia. Dennis KFO RFX, RTX, I can't tell, says hello. I'll just call him Dennis. Well, I didn't know your name was Dennis. Well, you didn't bother to find out now, did you? All right, so screen's gone black over here. That means it's rebooting, and when it restarts, regardless of those updates, like I said, I just leave them alone, let it finish. When it restarts, we're going to get the advanced startup menu. Now, one very important, and I cannot stress this enough, very important thing before reinstalling Windows is to make sure you are not plugged into the internet. This is crucial. If you're plugged into the internet, it's going to start downloading updates and everything's going to take forever, and it may force you into that Microsoft account, the whole Shift F10 thing. It's going to take forever. So save this until after Windows is installed. So when it wants you to connect to Wi-Fi, just skip past it. With our installation media made using Rufus, it will never require us to hit Shift F10. It'll always allow us the option to say I don't have internet. And this will work on 25H2. It'll work on 26H2. It'll work until perhaps Windows 12 or whatever they call the next version of Windows, which Microsoft hasn't even announced as a thing, right? I'm sure they're working on something, but it's a very competitive marketplace, and Microsoft is keeping all of that secret. And when they're ready to make an announcement, there will be betas for the public who choose to test it for about 6 to 12 months before that product is released to the public. So they won't just suddenly spring a brand new operating system on you. You will hear about the beta testing when it is released. When Microsoft has finished whatever the update to Windows is, and I'm sure they're working on something. Whenever they're done with that, They will open it to a public beta for 6 to 12 months. And that's all people are going to talk about. So it's not like you're going to wake up one day and suddenly there's a new version of Windows. It's not how operating systems work. There's not a single operating system on the planet that ever just without beta testing publicly just was released to the public. That would be profoundly unwise, irresponsible, and likely cause a lot of investment to go away from investors who suddenly were at risk now of the company being sued for oversights they didn't realize because they didn't give the public a chance to test it. So don't worry about there being a new Windows anytime soon. It will always be a beta for many, 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 many months before it becomes released to the public. And when that happens, all the beta testers will be showing you on YouTube, they'll be talking about it, etc. Okay, so don't even worry about that. Right now, Microsoft is not admitting they're doing anything, and they're not ready to disclose that information to their competitors. So it's all playing their cards very close to their chest. I'm curious why I'm not getting any screen here, so I just want to check that it's not the HDMI cable being plugged in. This should have restarted. It almost looks like it turned off, but no, I've got a blue light here. Let me see, did it go to sleep? What's it doing? I expected this to restart. Here, I guess it went to sleep on me. All right, so I want the option to use a device right here. And I don't know how well you can see that, but we're going to use a device, and it says, do you want USB removable drive? Do you want to boot to a CD or DVD, or do you want to boot to the network? I want a UEFI device. That's our flash drive right there. This is not a touchscreen, by the way. I'm just touching it to point it out. Now, from choosing that, it should start loading from the flash drive. Let's find out if it does here in a moment. It can be a little hard to tell if it's booting Windows 11 off the NVMe or if it's booting it off the flash. But since we got our setup screen, obviously we booted off the flash, just as we instructed it to. Now, I'm pretty sure that the HDMI out is not going to work until Windows loads, but let me just check. Yeah. So this, many times the HDMI out on a laptop requires a Windows driver. So this will not work on most laptops until after Windows is installed. So for that reason, I'm just going to have to film the screen. But if you've been watching this channel regularly, you know I'm going to do everything the same way. I always install Windows 11 exactly the same way, whether it's a laptop or it's a mini PC or it's a full-size desktop. It's always the same process. When it asks for a product key, I just come down here and say I don't have a product key. Windows 11 does not require a product key. You can use Windows 11 forever for free. There's just customizations you can't do without the product key, and you're going to get a watermark after a few days that says you need to activate Windows, and that's all the key does for you. Now, we know this came with a Windows 11 Home product key on it already. So if I choose Windows 11 Home, that product key that was previously assigned to this motherboard is reserved on Microsoft servers. When I select Windows 11 Home and hit Next, it's going to ask us to agree to the license agreement, and then it's going to ask where we want to install this. And it's going to show the NVMe drive with all those partitions on it from the previous install of Windows. And again, this is always the same. This part is different because normally you'd be using an NVMe drive that's brand new out of the box. But if you have an older NVMe drive laying around that you want to put in here, then what I would recommend is you delete anything that says disk 0 partition, select them one at a time and click delete partition, wait a few seconds, and you keep doing that until you have a single disk 0 listed. And what that's doing is it's completely erasing the drive. All the drivers, all the programs, all the data, if there's viruses and temp files, it's just completely nuking it. So we're just doing a complete obliteration that returns it back to like new out of the box. So when we're done, you'll see we have disk 0 here. Disk 1 that you see 4 times, that's the flash drive. That contains our Windows installer. So disk 0, it's a 1 terabyte drive. That's what I want, and I hit Next. It should ask us for confirmation. This is everything you want to do. It's a summary, and hit install. Now it's formatting or partitioning and formatting this drive to as many partitions as it wants. Copies over the Windows 11 files onto the internal drive, and then it will reboot and the Windows install will start. I don't need this after the first reboot. I usually leave it plugged in because it doesn't hurt, but after the first reboot, everything it needs off of here is being copied right now. And the reboot is what actually starts the install process. What it's doing now is it's getting the drive ready with the partitions and the formats and copying the installer files over to the local drive. So then when it reboots, it starts those local files and installs, and it no longer needs that. So whether you choose to leave it unplugged after your first boot or you want to plug it in or unplug it, it's entirely optional, but you're no longer dependent on it after the first boot. And that's universal of all Windows installs. Now, getting back to the whole activation thing, because this was previously activated with Windows 11 Home, and because we didn't have a product key, it says, well, without a product key, how do I know what version of Windows to install? So unless the product key was embedded in the BIOS, in which case it wouldn't even ask us what version of Windows to install. It would just install the version of Windows for the product key in the BIOS. Clearly, there's no product key in the BIOS here. So by telling it we don't have a product key, it says, okay, without a product key, what version of Windows do you want? Do you want Pro? Do you want Home? And since we had Home that was previously activated, by reselecting Home without a product key, when we go to Windows Update for the first time, silently in the background, it will recognize the serial number on this motherboard and the product key that was assigned to it. It will be reassigned from Microsoft Update servers, and it will reapply the product key without so much as even telling you it's doing it. You'll just check your activation status, and it'll suddenly be activated. So you never need to enter your product key more than once. If you do, that means you've used that product key on more than one computer, and the most recent computer is the one it's associated with, or it means somebody has stolen your product key, perhaps. But in most cases, product keys being stolen are a pretty rare thing. There's such a random number of letters and numbers that the odds of that happening are very low unless you've published it somewhere or you've had a virus on your machine that reported it back. It's such a minor thing for somebody to steal. It's not really worth the effort. So usually this works exactly as I'm demonstrating it here. So as it's installing now, we no longer need that flash drive, but I'm just going to leave it there because it's not hurting anything. And in just a minute, our install will be done. We'll go to Nemo's website and locate the drivers and apply them, and then Windows updates and check activation. And that's all there is to it. It's really that simple. And by putting on our own copy of Windows, we don't have to worry about any other bloatware, potentially spyware, or configuration options from the factory that you don't agree with. And you can do that on any computer. It doesn't have to be a BAREBONES, doesn't have to be a laptop or a mini or a desktop. This is something that you can do to any Windows 11 computer if you choose to, for any reason that you choose to do it. There's nothing special or different about this. Jack Kogelmis says hello from an 88 Fahrenheit Toronto. Oof, well, welcome in from 110+ Fahrenheit Phoenix. It'll be that way for the next 7 days at least. August is just the worst possible month to be, well, pretty much anywhere, but especially Phoenix. Once we get through August, I'll feel a lot better, but we're just now sticking our toe in the water, and I don't like it. All right, so we go through the same setup that we did initially. I don't think our HDMI cable is working yet, but it might be. Let's just check. No, not yet.
To set up your device using a screen reader, turn on Narrator by pressing Windows plus Control plus Enter. For more accessibility features, press Windows plus U, or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
Isn't that nice for them to tell us? There's a little speaker icon right down here if you want to turn that off. Anyway, so United States, we go through this exactly the same way. It's always the same every time. United States, US, skip. I don't have internet. Username will be user. Enter, blank password. Again, we're going to leave location settings on, but I prefer, and again, these are just my preferences. You don't have to use my preferences. I turn everything else off. My date and time will always be maintained for me, so as the clock ticks on and loses or gains minutes or daylight saving takes effect, it'll automatically adjust, and I never have to manually adjust it, or in the old days, have a blinking 12. Isn't technology great? All right, so now it's just finishing everything up here. I definitely don't need the flash drive in there, so I'll go ahead and take that out now. And relatively simple. Once this gets to our desktop, I think the driver for this will load, and then I will plug it back into the network. That way we'll be able to go online and visit Nemo's website. We should be able to get the drivers from there. And Windows updates, check our activation. That's pretty much all there is to it. So while we're waiting, if you have any questions about this process or this product, please feel free to ask here in the chat, and I'll do my best to provide an answer for you if I can. And I always check our chat room for answers too, because so many of our members and chat participants are far more knowledgeable than me in much of this. So don't dismiss looking for answers there. They might be faster and more accurate than me. In fact, there's a good chance. Okay, so you'll notice all these shaded out icons. Let me see if this works yet. Let's go to HDMI 3. Nope, not yet. So apparently the video driver has to load first. So what I'm going to do is grab my USB to Ethernet adapter. Now there's other ways we can do this if you don't have one of these. You could use another computer and download the drivers onto a flash drive, and then once you've got the drivers on the flash drive, plug the flash drive in and copy them off that way. This is just a lot more straightforward, and this, quite frankly, is cheaper than a flash drive. So it's much more convenient. The drivers for this are automatically part of Windows. Doesn't even matter which brand you buy. If it's a 1 gig network cable, like this, USB network cable, then, or network adapter rather, the drivers are always built in. Now you see all the icons populated here. And if I go to Windows Update, we're going to get some drivers automatically. Now, if we want to see what drivers are missing, just out of curiosity, let's see, we go to Device Manager. We've got a lot of missing devices here, which may be very difficult for you to see. But it looks like, go down. Gonna let me scroll down. I see 5 missing devices right there. It's very difficult for me to see it this way. So the first thing I want to do is just click on the Start button, go to Settings, and go to Windows Update. Now I'm doing this for 3 reasons. Does anybody want to tell me what those 3 reasons are? Because I've already told you what Windows Update's going to do. It's not only going to update Windows. That's one of the 3 reasons. What else is it going to do? It's going to provide some drivers for us. Maybe not all of them, or maybe it will be all of them. There's no way to know until we do it. We'll see if there's anything left over. If so, we'll go to Nemo to get those drivers. What's the third thing it's going to do for us? It's going to reassign the product key to Windows 11 Home and reactivate, and it'll do that silently. It won't tell you that it's doing it. This is true of all computer builds. It doesn't matter if it's a desktop, something you build yourself, a mini PC, or a laptop. It's always the same for everybody, no exceptions if you're using Windows. Now, if you're using something else, well, this channel isn't about something else, is it? So don't expect that information on a Windows channel. Now, you'll see there's a number of updates missing, and that's, of course, going to include drivers as well as whatever updates are missing off our installer, which is the latest ISO from Microsoft. So we're going to let that install, and When the video driver installs, then the HDMI cable over here should start working. Let's see, does that work yet? Not working yet. I will probably hear the speakers make like a USB connect sound, doo-doot, maybe. And then suddenly this will start working. That indicates when that driver's been activated. So just be aware that if you're running off an external monitor and you're doing a reinstall and you're not getting any video, you're not supposed to be using this until after the drivers go in. There are some laptops where this is more embedded in the BIOS, but that's becoming rarer and rarer to see, and usually those are on some pretty high-end laptops. All right, so this is normal behavior when a laptop has a built-in screen. This is the screen you want to default to on a reinstall. Until you get all your drivers set up, do not expect this to work. So again, we're all about disclosure, transparency, and making sure you set yourself up with realistic and reasonable expectations to the process. Too many other content creators, in my opinion, do not. Oh, I just heard it beep. Did you just hear it? See how the screen just went blank and it's coming back? I'll bet you this cable now works. Let's see. What do you know? That's exactly what it did. All right, so anyway, I don't know why content creators do it, whether it's subconscious, if they're not aware that they're doing it, and certainly viewers looking for information don't know what information's missing, because if you knew, you probably wouldn't be watching it for information. This is YouTube. So I want to make you aware of how to be a better viewer and how to be able to be self-sufficient. You know, I don't want to feed you a fish. I want to teach you to fish. If I feed you a fish, I have to feed you constantly, every time you get hungry. If I teach you to fish, I teach you once you feed yourself. That's what I'm here to do. Teach you to fish. Okay, let me get back over to the chat. Since this is going to take a few minutes to install, I suppose one thing I can check, I can turn this back around now since you guys can see it there. I want to check my power settings because I don't want this going to sleep on us while we're doing this live. So go to Edit Power Plan, and we're plugged in. So while we're plugged in, I'll say turn off the display after 3 hours and put the computer to sleep never. But on battery, I'll leave that alone because I want my battery to be preserved as much as possible. And we see a lot of things are completed, and in fact, it's waiting on a restart. The reason I don't get that big display that tells me is I haven't turned that on. I go under Advanced Options here, and I will turn on this option, and most importantly, to notify me when a restart is required after an update. Since I didn't turn that on, I wasn't aware it was waiting on me. Now it'll put a big banner up on the screen, so I can't miss it. So let's restart, and then we'll go back and check for updates and also look at the device manager in its current state, because we know the video driver installed, so who knows what else. I didn't see any optional updates yet, so after this first round of updates, we restart and we check again, and we will keep restarting and checking again until there are no more updates. That is the normal Windows update process. The reason for that is there are some updates that update previous updates, and you won't get the updates to the updates until you install the updates that the further updates are updating. Did you get all that? Like a bunch of Russian nesting dolls. All right, so let's look in the device manager. And what do we got missing? Nothing. Everything we needed came from Microsoft. Isn't that cool? We literally got everything, audio, Wi-Fi, all of it. So that's pretty damn cool. Now, I'm going to go back to Windows Update. In fact, it still may be installing updates. You'll know if you immediately go to Restart and it says Update and shut down. That means the previous updates that you just installed are still updating. One thing that's catching my attention right now is this globe down here on the right corner that says we're not connected to the network. That suggests to me that a driver hasn't loaded or a wrong driver has replaced it, because I should get, as long as I'm plugged in. Oh, I stepped on the network cable and it wasn't snapped in, so it just fell onto the floor. It's right, it's not plugged in. Silly me. Yeah, when I plug this in, there, it clicked. It's not going anywhere. I am notorious for not plugging cables in all the way. And when you have computer problems, the strongest advice I can give you is ask what you did that caused the problem. Don't immediately blame Windows or updates. If you choose to do that, you will not make for a good computer technician, and I hope that you don't consider yourself a good computer technician. The first thing a good computer tech does is ask what they did wrong. What have I done to cause this problem? If your immediate response is, what did the computer do to cause this problem? You won't be working for me, because you're going to take too long to resolve any problems. Most problems can be resolved very simply, so plugging in a cable. The vast majority of problems, people, when they're struggling, it's because they're overthinking it. Always do the simple thing first. And not just with computers. With everything in your life, most problems are pretty simple. And then the ones that aren't simple, those remainders, those are the difficult ones. But they don't make up the majority of problems in my life experience. In my life experience, the vast majority of problems are simple. But people often overthink. I don't know why. It's just something in our society we're starting to do. And technology has only made it easier and easier for those complicated problems to not exist. So, you know, this may be an old school mentality that carries over from decades ago. I don't know, but I can tell you from real life experience, more often than not, it's the easy thing that fixes problems. And it's just the rare ones that sneak by that become complex. And they do happen, but it's pretty rare. Now, if we take a look here at our activation settings, let's go to right click. Actually, I'll just type in activation settings. Did we auto activate it? We did. See here, it says active. That means the product key was reassigned to us. Even though we're not signed into a Microsoft account, the product key on Windows servers is reserved for this motherboard. That's why product keys are valid for the life of the motherboard and why you cannot move them from one machine to another. Unless you buy a retail key, which costs 10 times more. So unless you're going to move it 10 times or more, it's cheaper to just buy a key for the life of the board every time you change the board. You'd have to replace the board 10 times to break even on a retail key. So for that reason, we use OEM keys, and that's how they work. Just that easily. It was quiet. It did it without telling us it was doing it. We've got all our drivers, but we may not have all our Windows updates. So I'm going to go back to Windows Update. And you'll notice, you see this icon that says Office, Microsoft 365? That is what replaces those 8 installs of OneNote in Office. That's why that's outdated. That was acceptable many years ago, but when Microsoft instituted this new way of software distribution through shortcuts, it will automatically download the version, language version and region version associated to your Windows install. So you don't end up with all this detritus, all the dregs, all the extra crap is, I guess, what I'm trying to say in fancy words. So we're going to go back over to settings, and we're going to go back to Windows Update. And you can see it's already updating in the background, this cumulative update. And that cumulative update, any cumulative update, usually takes a few minutes. They're usually pretty sizable. And sometimes they're not just security updates, but feature updates. Features that make Windows so much better. Sometimes features people don't like. But it's generally the older people who are resistant to the change, and it's a disease, from my perspective, in my opinion, it's a disease that comes from older people. You will rarely find anybody under 20 complaining that Windows 11 updates are making it worse or that previous versions of Windows were better. These kids, they're embracing the technology far better than the adults are. It was that way when I was a kid. Adults just didn't get it. So if you find yourself in the school of thought that Windows is only getting worse, then the disease that's grabbed onto you as an adult is only getting worse. And only you can control your attitude and your reaction to it. Because when you talk to the younger people, when you talk to people under 20, they're happy to show you with a smile on their face how great these latest updates are. Generally speaking, it makes their games faster, their computers more secure. They love the addition of AI being able to help them with their homework and research. It's a different time. So the minute that you're disassociate, here's the way I see it. When I say all these kids today, now I'm starting to sound like adults did when I was a kid, and I am becoming that. If I'm self-aware that I'm doing it, a lot of times I'll just stop because I don't want to be that guy. It's your choice. You might want to be that guy, and if you do, there's nothing wrong with it. But it's too simple, and it's too common, it's too stereotypical. That right there turns me off. I don't want to be a stereotype. I want to shatter what anybody thinks of me. Well, you're a nerd, you're supposed to act this way. Your name is Carey, you're not supposed to talk like you do. You should talk like a Carey. People have said that to me. I don't even know what it means. I don't care either. I am who I am. And if I find myself falling into a stereotype trap and I become self-aware of it, I don't want that. So once I'm self-aware of it, I will self-correct it. If you like to be a stereotype, you're not breaking any rules. Go for it. Stereotypes exist for a reason. I don't want to be so simple-minded. Nothing frustrates me more than people that complain about Windows and talk about how much better everything else is, but yet they still use Windows. They talk about how terrible Walmart is, and they still shop at Walmart. They talk about how terrible McDonald's food is for you, and then you go in McDonald's and they're in line ordering food. So many people will speak as though they're self-righteous, but what they actually do is opposite of what they say. And be aware, you won't find that any more true than here on the internet. People will boldly make claims against a product that they themselves use, but still complain about it. That is a bizarre psychological disconnection. And because it's so rampant online, it's very easy for that to be a habit you pick up on and you start doing it, which then makes you into that stereotype. So be aware if you choose to, and make adjustments if you choose to. It's important to me that I don't fall into the mob mentality of any particular group. And if I do, and I'm unaware of it, once I'm aware of it, I will usually change it unless I have a damn good reason to justify, other than because that's what everybody else is doing. Now, this was the big notification I'm looking for that I like to turn on that tells me it's ready to reboot. That way I'm not sitting there, waiting until I glance over and realize, oh, it's been waiting on me. So it's one of the features that I turn on. It's a preference option. You don't have to turn that on, but that's, if you're wondering why I do that, that's exactly why. So again, if you have any questions regarding this laptop or the build process, the RAM, the storage, the operating system, I'll do what I can to provide you an answer. And I appreciate everybody hanging out with me today. I hope you're having a good Taco Tuesday. Is it Taco Tuesday? I saw a meme. It shows a cat and a taco, and it says, just so you know, Taco Cat is the same spelled forwards as it is backwards. I don't know why that's funny, but you might disagree. You might think it's not funny at all. I got a chuckle from it today. Barry Klein mentions the difference between a good boy and a bad boy is the bad boy got caught. I suppose that's true, isn't it? David Graham said, isn't the AMD Radeon 780M built into the CPU? I saw two fans. What's under the two fans? I was kind of wondering the same thing. And without disassembling it, I'm not exactly sure. Usually one fan is for the GPU and one fan is for the CPU. So I don't know. It's a fair question, David. I don't think one that makes a difference in life, but one that just might be something you're curious about. I don't want to disassemble a brand new laptop that has a nice seal of thermal compound on it. You'll never be able to put the thermal compound back on as good as they have it from the factory. Now, maybe in a few years, if it's gotten old and dry, maybe. But even then, whatever it's doing, I'm sure it's there for a reason. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. if we take a look, you know, since we're waiting for the updates, if we take a look at Amazon, yeah, let's take a look at, not Amazon, at Nemo's website for this, just to see, maybe they've got a blowout version of it. Let's just check. If I come over here and bring up Nemo's website, we'll go to our window capture. It says it's got a 6-hour battery life maximum. AMD integrated graphics 780M. Do we have a blowout of this? USB 4. You can see, we didn't really go over all the connectivity on here, but it's actually really good. In my opinion, there's your USB-C power input. There's the HDMI output. There's a super speed USB type A right there. There's your USB 4. I think that's a 4, isn't it? And then if you look at the other side of the laptop, there's more I/O over there. No, I am not seeing a picture of the other side. The keyboard is backlit. Why am I not getting any lights on this keyboard? It says the keyboard's backlit. Hold on a second. Squirrel moment. I'm going to stop before I forget. Let me check. Is this keyboard lighting up? It is not. So there may be a function key, F9 maybe. Function F9? No. Function F2 and F3 would control screen. No, it's not using the function. So the F keys, you have to hold the function button down. It's the other way around. For like F1, F2, you have to hit function. But for all the other features, it looks like just F9. Yeah, now it's lighting up. And then if I hit F9, yeah, now it's off. Okay, so F9, that turns the backlight on, but it is there. Now with regards to the breakout of this, I am curious. Let's go back over to their website again. What is the other fan for? They also have a 3-in-1 hub if you want more, like another HDMI and USB type A, as well as power delivery, like to charge a phone or something, all through one dongle. That's an optional add-on for just $17. If you're looking for another charger, the 100-watt power delivery laptop charger is only $20. Their prices here are beyond reasonable. They're definitely not gouging, I can tell you that. What does everybody else want for a charger? Do you know what Dell wants for their laptop charger? Is it $130? I mean, that's an extreme difference. So we're looking at the Ryzen 9 8945HS. So I'm going to Control-C this. I'm going to open a new browser tab and look at the specs, because I'm not sure if that graphics card is integrated into the CPU or as a separate integrated onto the motherboard. When they say integrated, I'm not sure what they mean by that. Form factor. I'm not seeing anything about a graphics card on here. So my guess is, wait a minute, graphics capabilities. Yeah, it does have built-in 780M. So what is that other fan for? Huh, I don't know. Now, when you go display port out or HDMI port out on this chip, it can go higher resolution than the display that's included with the laptop, if you're wondering why there's a discrepancy there. One of the ways they can keep the price low on the laptop is by not putting a $400 screen in it, right? So if you're a gamer and you want that higher refresh rate and syncing and high resolution, then of course you'll pay additional for that. And Yeah, so that at least gives us the detail on the chip that's on here. Very good. Okay. So I still don't know what the other fan is for. And perhaps we'll just reach out to Nemo and ask him. Sometimes the easiest answer is also the fastest way to get an answer. And we'll get it directly from the source rather than, you know, a stranger on the internet. I presume the information from the source will always be accurate, whereas the information from the stranger, maybe, maybe not. Either way, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever it's there for, I'm sure it's there for a reason. Whether we know the reason or not doesn't change the fact. But just out of curiosity, like, what's it there for? Your guess is as good as mine. You know, maybe it's a heat pipe design where both fans are working together on cooling the CPU, and they're just connected and separated far enough away to make the cooling more effective. Or maybe there's something under both of them. I don't know. Let's see, what else was I going to do? Oh, we're going to look at the BIOS. So to look at the BIOS, let's go to Start and Restart. Now, usually the BIOS is pressing the delete key, but on some systems it could be F2, F10, F8, Escape. I'm going to start with delete because that's the most common one, and see if that gets us in the BIOS. Now, likely when the BIOS loads, you won't be able to see it because the HDMI out requires a Windows driver. And so clearly it's not the delete key to get us in there, because I pressed it multiple times. So it must be another key combination. Now, likely many of our answers are probably in the included instruction book. Another way we can get in the BIOS here would simply be to go back to Windows Update. Go back right here in Windows Update, go to Advanced Options. The same way we did that Advanced Startup, we can do Recovery. It always starts with Recovery, and then we go to Advanced Startup. By the way, Quick Machine Recovery is part of that latest cumulative update. This is an amazing feature that Windows should have had all along. People running like LTSC versions of Windows that think they're outsmarting everybody will be completely omitted from this update. And I'm glad to see this is turned on. If you want to learn more about why this is there, just do a Google search on Quick Machine Recovery or CrowdStrike to understand how that's going to prevent that from happening again, or from being as bad as it was anyway. So Advanced Startup, I'll hit Restart Now. And when the Advanced Startup menu comes up this time, I'll tell it I want to go into the BIOS. That way I don't have to worry about what the right key is. This universally works for everybody on all computers. If we identify which key we need on this computer, then we have to identify a different key on another computer, and then viewers watching might feel overwhelmed that which way is it. So if I just show you the one universal way, it applies equally to all people. If you want to know specifically for your machine, usually Google or Copilot can answer that very easily for you. So right here under Troubleshoot, this is the option I want, which you can't really see on the screen here, but let me go full screen on camera. Let's go to camera 2. And what I want to do is I want to go to Troubleshoot right here. And then it says Advanced Options. I'm going to click on that. And over here on the right side in the middle, it says UEFI firmware settings. That's your BIOS. And then when I hit restart, it's going to restart into the BIOS. So if you're curious what that looks like, I can show you this way. I'm sure it's just a basic text-based. Yeah, it is. It's your basic BIOS here. All your different options are all through here. See, we're moving to different menus up here by using the right arrow key. Don't expect your mouse to work in this. You'll use keyboard in this only. You can go through your options if there's anything you want to change. I highly recommend you leave it alone. The engineers have found the balance between power, performance, battery life, and heat. For you to get more power or less power out of it may have consequences. There's a reason why it goes through all the testing and settings that it does. It's to make sure you have the best, most reliable, most secure, fastest, quietest, lowest heat user experience, regardless if you're using it for 10 minutes or 10 days without turning it off. That's what all this is set for by the factory. for universal use, not for use for you, for universal use. That's always the best case scenario because people's needs change. And then when suddenly they start using the computer in a different way and it's crashing or overheating, they usually forget they made those modifications and then they blame the laptop manufacturer. If you set your BIOS back to defaults, all those problems usually go away that you yourself are responsible for. So if you never change it to begin with, you don't have to worry about any consequences that are your own fault. All right, it's your choice. I'm just letting you know. We're not making any changes in here, so I'm just going to exit out of here, which we'll just go to save and exit. That's fine. And then that'll restart us back into Windows. Let me go check in the chat room here again. Back to camera 1 full screen. And let's see if there's any questions I've missed. We're just at about the 2-hour mark, so it seems like a good place for us to stop. Unless you guys have questions for me, the last thing we have to do is just put the screws in it. All the additional screws are in the little Ziploc bag that was taped to the side of the box. When it comes to what kind of laptop is this, we already reviewed the Ryzen 9 version of the Nemo. Was it the same model? It was just the non-BAREBONES model. This could be used for some mild gaming, 1080p gaming, depending on, you know, what sort of frame rates you're looking for, what kind of games you play. It's not really, you know, don't expect to be able to play games in 4K and turn all the bells, whistles, and features on if you're spending under $1,000. It's just, as far as I know, there's no machine that exists that'll do that unless you spend $1,000 or more. Where you're at here is pretty close. You know, you can still absolutely play games on this, and I think the frame rates are very acceptable at 1080 resolution, very playable. And when you consider the price, all of a sudden it even becomes a more appealing value because it's so versatile. You can edit videos on this. You can use this for schoolwork. You can use this for of course, all your social media, paying bills online, emails, all that normal stuff, of course. But then on top of that, it's got enough horsepower to actually do some real work. I mean, a Ryzen 9 is nothing to shake a stick at. That's a very good CPU. Now, I will also add the AMD Adrenalin drivers to this. So while we did get the drivers themselves, I don't get the app unless I download it. So let's do that right now. Bob R. contributed a $10 super chat. He says, good video, thank you. Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you for your super chat. All right, let me jump back over here real quick. Let's get back over here. Wrong one, Carey. This was the one I want. And then let's go full screen. And they are having their back to school sale. So Nemo's got a lot of stuff on sale right now. In fact, a lot of people have a back to school sale going on. So if you've not been in school for many decades, this is the time of year, at least here in the US, when all those back to school sales at Walmart and Target and Amazon and all the manufacturers, it's like they're pre-Black Friday. It's back to school. So that's a good excuse to have a sale. With regards to the AMD Adrenalin software, I'll just bring up the browser. This is optional, but I don't know why you wouldn't want it. We'll just go up here and just type in AMD, and it's Adrenalin without the E on the end for some reason. In fact, if we type it with the E on the end, it'll self-correct. See, there's no E on the word Adrenalin here at the end. That's what we want. Download the software. AMD can't even decide if this is software or drivers, which I think is humorous. Do you want to download the software? Yes, I would like to download the software. Okay, here are the drivers. Well, which one is it? Make up your mind, AMD. Is this drivers or is this software? It's actually both. So that's going to download right up here in the top corner, a pretty small download. And we're going to open that, and it'll verify that we have a system that this is compatible with. And then go through the installation process according to which AMD hardware you have.
If it doesn't detect any AMD hardware, it'll tell you this software is not for you. Have a nice day. Let's close the browser out just to clear out the clutter so you can see what's going on here. This is completely free, and every AMD computer, be it laptop, desktop, or mini PC, will benefit from having this. What are our additional options? It should be giving us maybe chipset drivers too. Oh, this is just for installation location. This you can leave on or off. It's up to you if you want to help out AMD or not. And then I'll just do the express install. So again, you don't need to have this on an AMD, but you will have better performance, better security, and better reliability if you choose to install it, and it's free. And it'll also give you the option to keep it updated at all times. You never know when an update comes out. So unless you're manually checking, how would you know? Is it once every 6 weeks, once every 6 months? All I know is when an update comes out, it comes out for a reason. And it's usually to enhance security, performance, or reliability, sometimes all three. All I know is it's free and it came out. You know, someone spent a lot of time and money to develop this, and then they give it to you for free. It must be really important. So if you want the most performance and bang for your buck, it is in your best interest to make sure if you have an AMD-based system that you install the AMD Adrenalin software, unless it doesn't apply to your build. But there's no harm in trying, because it'll either succeed or tell you that you don't have any compatible hardware. Either way, it costs you nothing. There's no downside to it. Now, if you're running an Intel system, pay no mind. I just heard a video driver go on. That's why the screen blanked out like that, and then just came back as that new driver took effect. Here's our friend Buster calling it a night. Thanks for hanging out with us today, Buster. Good to see you, my friend. And then, of course, the option here to keep AMD software up to date, I definitely want that. So I'm just going to hit close, and in just a moment that software is going to appear on the screen, because the other box that was checked was to auto launch the software. So you configure it to the need of your use case scenario. Do you want to play games? Do you want to tune your hardware performance? Do you want to, browse the web while you work? So there's different performance calibrations that you can adjust. Again, it's not necessary, but it can make your experience better. I'm going to skip this for now because I'm not doing anything specific. And up here in the top right, it does tell us our version number the last time it's checked. And that will help keep you updated for the latest performance improvements, security updates, and reliability updates. That's all there is. I want to thank our friends at Nemo for giving us the freedom to be able to do this live, to be able to be transparent and honest with you about everything we like and everything we don't. I do not like their predefined install. I feel it's outdated. I do like that they seem to be the only laptop manufacturer outside of Framework that you can buy bare bones. I also like the 90-day return. I also like the USA-based, assembly and repair depot. So if anything does go wrong, you're not sending it overseas for repair. The warranty on it's good. The support is good. The website provides everything you should need. We never did look at that because we didn't need to. But out of curiosity, now that I just said it out loud, I realize if I go back over here to the desktop, let's look at Nemo's website to see if they make optional driver downloads available. This is a Nemo. Oh, you know what? This is probably not the best way for me to do this because I'm not sure. I keep forgetting what the make and model of this is. Let me come back over here and let me look at Nemo's web page because I already have it up over here. This is the N175. I don't know why I can't remember that. The N175, and if I go to window capture, there's usually like a support, yeah, right here, help center. And then we will look for N175 driver and manual. So this takes us to the 151. There's a video that walks you through the process. Now this is a brand new model. We're one of the first people to get it. We might be the first people to review it. and it does not appear yet in their list. We'll make them aware, in case they're not already, that the N175 manual and driver downloads are not yet published on their website, because it should appear in here. But this is what happens when you're a content creator and you're getting things early. So while this is available for sale and you can buy it today, it looks like they're a little behind on the web dev, the development of their website to include the drivers. Now, in a worst case scenario, if you needed the drivers, you would simply reach out to them and say, hey, I need drivers for this. And they'll point you, in the meantime, they'll point you manually to the drivers. And I'm sure once we point out that this is missing, we'll get an update for them if they're aware of it and when we can expect that to be there. But you'll see they've got it for all the other models, right? Typically, in a perfect world, that would be available on the website first before the driver, before a bare bones laptop would be released to the public. The drivers and manual should be on the website first. There's no rule that says they have to do it that way, but that would be a better way. They have some kind of a special going on here, the spin to win deal, if you want to do that. That's part of their whole back to school thing they got going on. And if you're interested in other products they sell, they do have some mini PCs. I don't know if you caught that. Products. They have laptops, mini PCs. They also have refurbished laptops available. So if we go here, as if the price wasn't cheap enough, look how much cheaper they have these refurbished laptops, starting at $154.99 for a budget. And I think we did the review on the N151, if I'm not mistaken. All these colored dots are the colors the laptop comes in, but may not be available as refurbished in these colors, right? If you want to specify the color and it's not available as refurbished, then, if you want that choice, you'll have to buy new. But if we click on this one, for example, they're showing what they have refurbished. So far, it looks like it's in all the colors. There's a red one. Now this is bare bones, meaning there's no RAM and there's no storage. And your RAM is going to be very limited if your CPU starts with the letter N. It can't see more than about 16 gigs of RAM. And even if it sees it, it can't really use it. The Intel processors of this level really can't benefit from higher amounts of RAM. You're not going to make it any faster. If you need a faster laptop, buy a faster laptop. Don't buy a limited CPU. These limited CPUs cost less. That's how you get the price down. You're not going to be able to desolder that CPU and change the motherboard and the chipset. Trust me, you can't do it. So do understand what you're buying, and trying to outsmart it isn't going to work well for you. So you can put 16 gigs of RAM in this, no problem. Or you can go ahead and have them bundle it with 8 gigs of RAM and have them add a 256 gig drive that only adds $35 to the cost, right? 20 and 15 is 35. And what am I missing? All right, sorry, we had a little buffering issue, internet connection related issue there. Not on your end, that was on us. So to wrap it up, you can look around the Nemo site for deals. The refurbished area is going to change fairly regularly as other refurbished models become available. That can save you even more money. Their support is really, really good. They have excellent customer service, and they're based here in the USA. So I've got a lot more good to say about them. And the criticisms I have are relatively minor. So when it comes to the bloatware and configuration of Windows, I think that it's easy enough to fix that yourself. Just wipe Windows and reinstall it. And with that, I don't see any other questions in the chat room. So let me just look one more time. I also want to remind you that we're always happy to hear from our viewers if you want to reach out to us. Our email address I'm going to put right here on the screen. Again, a thank you to our friends at Nemo for sending the laptop, for allowing us to explore what a bare bones laptop is like. And I like it. This shouldn't just be a Nemo thing. Why doesn't everybody do this? In the meantime, it's good to know you have options. And they're attainable. Other than, you know, big money framework laptops, which I think are way overpriced. Yeah, that's our email address right there, showcasecreate@gmail.com. We always enjoy hearing from you guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please feel free to reach out at your convenience. We also have our forums at CareyHolzman.boards.net. You're all welcome to hang out in there and leave messages and talk to one another in the community. It's all open, available, free, 24/7. To our members, we can't thank you enough, because without you, these videos wouldn't be possible. And we appreciate your support, so we are not sponsored here. We're free to speak our mind, and we don't have to worry about fear or retaliation from any brands or any corporations withholding money from us. You guys enable this, and without you, well, this would look very different. And I can't thank you enough for being a friend and a supporter. As well as, of course, Mara for all the work she does with our thumbnail creation, video descriptions, communications like between Nemo and the channel are all done through Mara. She sets all this up. It's a lot of work. So thank you to Mara, as always, for all of her hard work behind the scenes. And I want to thank our friends over at SCD Keys, because if I do need to buy a Windows license, this is where I get them. I use my coupon code and I pay the same price. I just asked their friends at SCD Keys, can I share this with my audience? And you will be buying legitimate legal license keys that are fully supported for 6 months by the seller, SCD Keys, for the same price I buy them for my customers. In order for me to be competitive as a computer technician, this keeps me competitive. At the same time, it also gives me peace of mind that if I do have a problem, they've got my bag. Sure, I could roll the dice and buy a product key from some random seller online, and if there's a problem, it'll be on me to fix it. And until I fix it, it's my customer's impression of me that I don't know what I'm doing, or I take too long, or that they're suffering problems they've never had with other techs. That ends up costing me a lot more than the cost of a product key. That's why it's so critical. I have to do everything right, unless I don't care about my business or my customers. So for that reason, if you have that same amount of concern about having peace of mind and getting things done correctly, this kind of information is gold. Plus, that discount saves you some money. I don't make a commission off of this, so if you buy it or you don't buy it, makes no difference. Just trying to help you out. The links for the Office and Windows product codes and links to buy them are all in the video notes. Links to the laptop, again, in the video notes, all thanks to Mara. And that's going to wrap it up for us for today. Thank you, of course, to our contributors, which include in Super Chat today, Bob R. with that $10 Super Chat, and all those contributions that came in during the live show, many from already paying members. So that includes hold on, I'm finding it. That includes Mark Baggett with a $10 PayPal contribution. Our friend Buster, of course, and Mark Gaines with their Amazon gift card contributions. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. And again, that's the fuel we need to just keep marching forward. Now, tomorrow I have appointments, and I think Thursday as well. I'm not quite sure. But the good news is, on Friday, the Minis Forum, N5 Pro, NAS, we've got everything we need to review this unit. I've got the drives, I've got the unit, I got the green light, everything's good to go. Everything's brand new in a box, including the drives. And that will be on Friday. That's going to be a big show for me because I am super excited. It's rare I get this excited for a product, and I hope, you know, look, it's a first-gen product, so I hope I'm not setting myself up to be disappointed. But knowing what I know from Minis Forum and some of the struggles we're having in the NAS market from all the manufacturers, I'm really hopeful that this answers all of my concerns right out of the gate. Wouldn't that be awesome? But I have to remind myself, I got to reserve my expectation because it is a first-generation product. But I can't wait for Friday because it's right here. The only thing stopping me from opening that box and playing with it is discipline. I want to share that with you. See the sacrifices I make for you guys? Man, that thing be torn open and be running right now. I'd have done that at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I'm saving it because I want to share the experience with my friends. So thank you. And I will see you all again. At the very least, I'll see you on Friday, 1 o'clock, as always. Hope you'll join me then. And until next time, bye for now.